We have an update regarding the situation that is going on right now with Thais and Patrick Mendes and their current divorce situation. So, as per Star Chasm, as you can see here, folks, it started by saying in a new divorce filing, 90 Day Fiance, the last resort star Patrick Mendes claimed his wife Thais Mendes put an affair that came to light earlier this year, which is quite interesting because based on the most recent episode of The Last Resort, John was accusing Thais of what? Of having an affair. Now, we continue here where it says, on or about April 11th, 2026, Dad learned that Mum was involved in an affair. Reads a motion filed by Patrick's attorney on Wednesday. Now, I believe Dad and Mum is reference to Thais and Patrick. It continues here by saying the filing also reveals details about what happened between Patrick, Dad, and Thais' mum after he became aware of the infidelity. After Dad discovered the affair, Mum demanded that Dad move out of the party's home as she had told her new romantic partner that their parties were already separated and no longer residing together, which explains why these two have not been living together for said amount of months and why they've obviously been co-parenting. Now, to be fair, I'm surprised that Thais isn't the one that actually filed for divorce ahead of Patrick, but hey, we continue. Apparently, Patrick was reluctant to relocate. Mum thereafter made threats to Dad, leading Dad to officially move out of their marital residence on or about May 6, 2026. A little more than 2 weeks later, Patrick and Thais got into an altercation that resulted in her arrest for domestic battery, something that we spoke about previously on this channel. And also, we are still waiting, hopefully, to see the recording that Patrick took of Thais actually being violent towards him. On May 22nd, 2026, the parties got into an argument that led to Mum getting violent with Dad. The motion states, during the incident, Mum grabbed a knife and threatened Dad with it, all while holding the child. Wow. God damn. You know what's so crazy, folks? So far this season, I have been not advocating for Shekinah, but I have been literally saying to people, if people want to call out Shekinah for saying what she said, people should still also be calling out Thais for being violent as well. I've also said that if cast members are going to call out Shekinah for what she said, they should also be holding Thais accountable for the violence as well. But instead, none of them wanted to do that. In fact, I believe it was actually Paul that came out and said, oh, it was literally nothing but a finger to her face. Violence is violence. Point blank, period. And now we are witnessing that people have been defending somebody that is more than happy to pick up a knife in front of their own bloody child. All because people hate Shekinah that much, they just didn't want to have they just didn't even want to look at the other side of the situation. And this has always been the problem within the 90-day community. When people hate one person from the relationship, they will always defend the other person's relationship no matter what. It's like, you do realize in life, two people can be wrong. Two people can both be disliked. There doesn't have to be one or the other. But hey, people will do whatever the hell they want to do. But no matter what, I'll always be true to my own beliefs. But let's continue with this moving mad, such heinous behavior by Thais. How dare you pull out a knife in front of your child? It's one thing to pull out a knife anyway, but in front of your child? Dad supposedly contacted the law enforcement and Mum was arrested for domestic violence. Now, one thing that we do know is that the charges were dropped, and also I believe the charges were actually more due to the police, not necessarily Patrick in particular. I believe Patrick simply just rang them because obviously she had a knife. But when it came to the charges, they were actually done by the law enforcement from what I remember, and therefore they were then dropped. And ironically, the police officer did say they did see a video of what happened that Patrick showed them, and also showed that Patrick had scratches on his face. Thankfully, the scratches were probably more due to her nails rather than the actual knife. But also in the same conversation, I shouldn't be saying thankfully they're due to her nails, not a knife, because in reality, her nails shouldn't be touching him anyway, especially given the fact that their daughter was literally right there. But we continue. The motion reveals the couple have a nanny who witnessed the May 22nd, 2026 instance. As Starcasm previously reported, the district attorney declined to pursue the charge against Thais, and it was dismissed. Now, I really hope that this nanny, if this nanny is obviously called to be a witness, which obviously it does say here, I hope that we can obviously get some answers regarding obviously what the nanny has to say as well, because it seems to me now we don't just have one story or two stories, we have three stories, which means out of the three stories, the fourth one is the one that we need the most, and that one is the truth. Because as we know, there's always two sides to the story, but there's always one that's the truth. Which one it is for us to figure out. But hey, let's continue. Thais defined a custody agreement. Okay, Patrick's motion states that he and Thais reached a custody agreement regarding their 3-year-old daughter Alice. Dad relied upon the agreement and attempted to co-parent with mum pursuant to the parties' informal agreement. Mum supposedly reneged. Damn, my reading is atrocious. I am moving mad. Anyway, on the parties' agreement, leaving the parties without a stable parenting schedule. Later in the filing, the Thais alleged reneging on the informal custody agreement was brought up again. Now I'm just doing a whole bunch of calamity, aren't I? Anyway, we continue. The parties were residing together until their official separation on or about May 6, 2026. Since that time, Dad has attempted to reach a parenting agreement with Mum so that the parties can avoid unnecessary litigation. Pronunciations, anyway. Even after Mum was arrested due to her domestic violence against Dad acted in good faith and was able to reach a resolution to custody with Mum. However, Mum has reneged on the parties' agreement and ceased any productive communication since retaining counsel. Dad would never withhold the child from Mum and has never done so in the past. Dad is hopeful that once the court sets a fair custodial schedule for the parties, Mum will abide by the court orders and co-parent with Dad's efficiency. You know what though? It is absolutely lovely to see that despite the fact that this woman is clearly a freaking some type of psychopath, it is good to see that he's able to at least identify that she's still a good mother and she still can be someone that is trusted with their child. That is the good thing. And at least he's not trying to use her violence against her to not see the child. Because as many people, if the roles were reversed, would happily say, well, no, he shouldn't have the child because of this or that. Because some people like to use the child as a weapon if roles were reversed. So it's good to see that at least he's not allowing that to be something that's going to be an issue, because I really dislike when people use children as a weapon in a relationship. And to be fair, given the fact that she was using violence in front of the child, I mean, listen, that is more than enough for somebody to say, you know what, I don't want her near the child. But again, he's looking at it from a different perspective, and he understands that at least she's a good mom regardless of her psychotic behavior. But anyway, we continue. Patty's attorney argued the court should admonish Mum and inform her that once the court enters in orders, any further withholding will be considered parental abduction, which to be fair does make sense. Patrick Mendes asked for joint custody of Alice. Despite Dice's alleged fair and defiance of informal custody agreement, Patrick still requests that they share joint legal and physical custody of Alice, which is absolutely fantastic, because it's good to see that at least he's thinking about his daughter. It tells you a lot about his character as a father, you know what I mean? And it's absolutely beautiful to see. Because again, he could have done things completely differently. And don't get me wrong, even if he was to go down the other route where he was to say, no, she can't see the child because she did this and that, would he be wrong to do so? Given the fact that if infidelity is involved, violence is involved, would he be wrong to do so? I mean, I guess that's where it becomes very subjective. But that's not the case. So I'm going to speak on what's happening. What's happening is that he's choosing to at least know, regardless of her flaws, he's still able to say, well, because of what type of parent you are, it's only right. But we continue. Unless, on the other hand, though, he just doesn't want, or unless he's trying to get the whole court case done quick as possible because he can't afford any more expenses. So he doesn't want to go back and forth for too long. Otherwise, you have to keep coughing up some more money. Nah. I'm gonna take it in the positive light that he's doing it because he's a good father. Patty downplays Tice's arrest and attributes in large part to the divorce. This is quite sad to see. Although the parties are currently going through divorce and custody proceedings, Dad believes that once the court weighs in and provides the parties with a set timeshare, that the parties can absolutely cooperate adequately, in order to meet the needs of the child. Dad is dedicated to the child and values in this time with her. Dad has always worked with Mum to meet the child's needs. Dad will do whatever it takes to ensure that the child is taken care of, and has historically worked with Mum to ensure the child's needs are met. Accordingly, this factor supports Dad's request for joint physical custody. Listen, like I said before, putting the child's first. Fair enough. I hear it. I hear it. I hear it. But it frustrates me that if the roles were reversed and he was the one with the knife, he was the one that put marks on her face, yeah, those charges being dismissed would have been very unlikely. Due to genders, yeah. And then also when it came to then this part of the custody, it would have been very unlikely that, he would have been given such a leeway, should we say, to still be able to see his child. Because he would have been seen as an endangerment to his child. It's really funny, isn't it? How things can work so differently depending on your gender. Sometimes even things can work very differently, even depending on your race as well. Well, not race, no, with the human race, no. Dependent on your complexion, your pigmentation. Yeah, that's the one. The justice system. So fair, isn't it? But those things have to be highlighted no matter what, folks, because you cannot ignore them. But either way, though, I still do praise. So this puts me in a bit of a catch-22, I think, now, because I want to also continue to praise him looking at it from this perspective. But like I said before, you flip it on the other foot, the argument will be so different, because so many people will be saying that he's not fit to be around that child. So therefore, can we say that she's fit to be around their child? This is a woman that has role modeled infidelity in front of her child, and also role modeled violence in front of her child. Does that scream somebody that is fit to still have custody, 50% custody of their child, unsupervised as well? So now I've changed the whole perspective of how I'm looking at it, folks. Give me your thoughts on the perspective now that I'm looking at it instead. Because these conversations need to be had. They need to be had, folks, because a child's life is involved. And let's be real, if a child wasn't involved, well, then we'd be saying that she should be running away from him, or he should be running away from her. Do you see what I'm saying? Give me your thoughts, folks. But we continue here where he does say the child is closely bonded to both parents. Patrick's attorney stated there is no reason for the parties should not be able to maintain a strong relationship with the child throughout their minority. Patrick requests that the current parenting schedule remain in place. That schedule has Alicia with Patrick Wednesday through Sunday, and with that is Sunday through Wednesday. To be fair, that is quite cool, you know what I mean? Better than G and flipping Cara. G only sees his child once a week and people still defend that clown. Yeah, that part. Anyway, Patrick Mendez addresses child support. Patrick Mendez reveals that he is currently employed as a senior account executive and earns approximately $9,800 per month in gross income. Not a bad salary. The filing states that Dice is self-employed and it won't be clear what her income is until she files an official disclosure form. Dad fully believes that the parties should be sharing joint legal and joint physical custody of the child. Accordingly, child support should be set. Okay, obviously based on his numbers. In this case, each party's respective income should be utilized to calculate their respective child support obligations. Of course, pursuant to the court entering a joint physical custody order for the parties, the court should set the appropriate amount of child support, with the calculations being made once both parties have filed their respective financial disclosure forms. Okay. And to be fair, actually, we'll continue. Patrick Mendes' attorney fees. Patrick Mendes requests that Thais be responsible for paying his attorney fees if she is unreasonable in her opposition for Patrick's request. This case should be an easy one for the court and the parties. Patrick's attorney argue, however, to the extent that the mom opposes the reasonable relief set forth herein. Mom's opposition would be Forishless, yeah, that word. And dad would request that mum pay 100% of his attorney fees and costs in this matter. Patrick and Thais are due back in court on Thursday, August 20th, which that is actually today, for a case management conference. So basically, in a nutshell, folks, here, right, Patrick is obviously trying to make the case as simple as possible, as easy going as possible, therefore it can be done ASAP, rather than obviously be going back and forth and making the situation drag on for months upon ends, which therefore mean it would cost more in fees. And to be fair, I think if I was in Thais' position, based on what I'm reading, I would just agree with everything that is obviously being set above. But of course, if there's other things that we don't know about, that she knows about, that needs to be brought to light, then you know what? Contest it, and then obviously we'll see what happens then. But either way, folks, we'll be here to give you guys more updates on what's happening with these two, obviously, as we come across more information. But like I said before, folks, let me know your thoughts though, because at the end of the day, if the roles were reversed, how would this actually really play out? You know, so yeah, so I went from praising Patrick to now thinking, I don't know. So give me your thoughts. Thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.